I never expected things to go the way they did with Samak and his tribe, the three-tusked Stelgar. Although now that it is done, I can be happy that his death was from battle rather than by cowardly poisoning. He got what he deserved in the end, and I don't have to have the act of poisoning a tribal leader on my conscience. What he wanted to do wasn't why I despised these barbarians, it was because their spiritual leaders and his followers would have been alright with murdering a child to make his lineage stronger. These things are hushed up in civilization, and if they are known, then the people see and compose themselves as if that leader is evil. Just look at Lord Raderick. Here among the Glanfathen, they tend to have these things happen as if nothing were amiss. Council of Stars. Sheeta and Rhiannon, the Delangons of Elm's Reach, told me that Theos has destroyed the route from Tir Evron to Breath Aemon. To reach him, I will have to descend through the pit in the Burial Isle. That requires the aid of the gods. The Delangon sisters explained that no mortal can survive the descent to Breath Aemon. The gods, however, can grant me safe passage. To ask for their favor, I'll need to pray to them in Tir Evron, where they are said to commune with mortals. And this is Tir Evron. Where I pray, I don't know. I take it it's behind them. Hello? They've allowed me passage. Well, isn't this serene? I guess look around. Books. Book of the Hunt. Daily affirmations of focus and efficiency. The queen that was and still is. I like reading, but I don't know if I should be taking from here. Missives of the Hand Occult. Many Faces of Barath. Of the Wheel. Oh, Final Journal of Jonas. I've had that. Actually have that on me. 10 Years of Dawn. Oh, the enigmatic god of cold. I thought I may have picked that up already. I'm going to take that. I would like to know more about that god. Shattered and charred stone blocks the passage into sun and in shadow. What's this? Audra? Luminescent Audra shard. Crisp flashes of light run through this Audra shard, pulsing in its faceted core like veins of a light fueled by a heart of fire. Take it. Do I pray here?
A brothel for the ages.
Are these the different gods? I don't know what to do. I don't even know the symbols of the different gods. Well, some of them I do.
Yeah.
Strange. I'll have to check my journal to see what corresponds to what. I've got a encyclopedia, actually, on the deities. Barath should be of the wheel. God of death, cycles, doorways, mortality, and inevitability. Most often seen in the form of the pallid knight or the usher, two skeletal characters who lead such people to their deaths by way of challenge or trickery. Well, Aethys, God, rebirth, redemption, dawn, spring, and light, shown a man bearing a candle and wearing a silver crown. These don't correspond to what I'm seeing. Or Magron, the goddess of fire, transformation, purification, consumption, and trials. Thought to have blessed the Godhammer bomb that destroyed Wadlin and possibly Aethys. This book doesn't help me.
Yeah.
There's two hammers here, but I don't know what that means. Ah. I think I understand. With some of these gods, such a Rimmergrand. Ah, god of entropy, cold, winter, bad luck, famine, and disasters. That's what that temple was, the cold temple. A Wodika. Vermigrand. What about Magran? Before this shrine sits the constellation of a snarling hound, fangs bared. That's Galloway. The shrine sits before a bright constellation, its stars forming the oval shape of an egg. A pair of wings sprout from the egg. This is Hylia, stretching out to either side. This would be Galloway. This would be Hylia. Magran doesn't seem to favor me. Nothing happens when I approach the Wodika shrine. I didn't think so. That's where the leaden key follow. Wodika. Wodika. Goddess of justice, law, oaths, promises, rulership, vengeance, memory, and hierarchies. Depicted as an old noblewoman bearing a broken crown upon her head. Said to have been once ruled over the other gods, but has since been overthrown. In the nearby constellation, I can make out the shape of a strange horned beast. From time to time, I think I sense a faint chill emanating from the shrine itself. Rimmergrand. A piercing ring fills my ears as I near Whale's shrine. There is no other response. Barath? In the glittering star of a nearby constellation, I see the grim shape of a skull. Its jaws are wide open, as if frozen. The sound screams. So that's light, god of life. It's life cycles, death, rebirth. Well, Galloway. Helia. I've directly helped Helia. I'll pray to Helia with the dragon who I spared. I step before the shrine, prepared to recite the ritual words. This is the god of mother, dragons, motherhood, dragons. Obviously, each one will have a saying that will conform to it. I don't know. I have to consult with my party members. I do believe I figured it out. Helia. Live every note of life's song. My words seem to ring in the air, my voice rendered melodic and lilting by some unseen art. I kneel. While I pray, I feel the space around my body shift and melt, and I find myself in a vision of the mountaintop temple. Yet I see neither worshippers nor a dragon, but a tree, its limbs wrapped around the perimeter of the temple, tapering into twigs and branches of all sizes and angles. They seem too long and too numerous to be held up by the meager trunk, but they hold steady in the breeze. A single sparrow lands on the nearest branch. It watches me. Whistle to the bird. I whistle the first tune that pops into my head. The sparrow blinks its beady eyes and hops closer to me along the branch. It bobs its tiny head and opens its beak, and the rich trilling melody that spills forth is the song of a chorus of birds. A massive flock descends with a thundering of wings and whooping, screeching, chirping calls. They all fill the boughs of the tree by the thousands, birds of every shape, size, and color, nestling next to one another. Pelagina sighs heavily. To be honest, I really can't stand birds. A breeze rips through the air. The limbs sway, creaking with a strange, gentle rhythm. A few hundred of the birds flit from their branches, forming a brilliantly variegated flock in front of the tree. As they meet and swoop in unison, I catch a glimpse of someone looking back at me, cloaked by the fury of feathers.
You journeyed to my temple and found the dragon. Yet instead of driving it off, you allowed it to stay. The songs of my faithful will never again fill the nest, and the beast and her young will slaughter many to feed their hunger.
Dragons like your birds are creatures of the skies. Every life bears a cost.
Yes, and each should create wonders of commensurate value. What does a dragon create?
How do I respond to her? More dragons. Big dragons create baby dragons.
A circular answer, and yet one that bears a kernel of wisdom. Life must continue. Young must be nurtured, and the seeds sown by each generation must grow and bear fruit of their own. If you value life, then perhaps you are the right person to end this tragedy.
I hope so. I came to you for aid. I need to get to Sun and Shadow. The birds return to the tree and nestled among the piers. The breeze ripples through the branches again, carrying the goddess' voice.
Yes, but not only to stop Theos, to undo the tragedy he has wrought.
That is my hope. Birds all over the tree begin to chirp and sing, and in the rise and fall of their voices, Helia speaks. Theos acts, but is moved by another. The exiled queen whispers in his ear, urges him to rob the living and the unborn of their souls for her benefit, and he has obeyed. It's as I thought. He follows Wodica. A hawk shifts on his perch. She will consume them, grow powerful, while 1,000 empty children are born. But there is still time to reverse this tragedy. How could I return things to the way they were? The birds suddenly fall silent, watching me. The voice on the wind returns. Guide the trapped souls back to the bodies they were stolen from. Hollow-born children whose eyes have never seen the sun. You could restore them, give their families hymns of joy after years of lament. The breeze tickles my ear. Peace and restoration give purpose to suffering. There is no meaning, no redemption in pain that does not lead to fulfillment. Symmetry demands that great rejoicing follows suffering such as this. I am not sure it is possible to truly undo the harm Theos has caused. Shigani flinches. Surely those wounds can heal, or don't you think the long absences could be overcome? I hear the cry of a swift, soft plaintive. Perhaps the years cannot be forgotten, and for some, perhaps it is already too late. But if you could restore even one soul, kindle one spark of life, raise one voice in joy, it would be worth it. There's another side to this. Ayla's tone is cautious. You've seen the consequences of a soul disjointed from its own cycle. Could these children ever truly return? Perhaps it would be better to allow these souls to find new lives. How can they continue to another when they have not fully lived this life? To pass them along to another now is cutting a stanza from a poem, a verse from a song. Thank you, Helia. I will continue to Sun and Shadow.
When you reach the burial isle, you will find souls there that I have granted reprieve for their sins. I give these to you, for only they can bear you to safety on your journey down. And when you face Theos and the rotting fruits of his endeavors, remember the conversation we have had. In that moment you will have power rivaling a god's, and after it, you will live in the world that you have chosen. Choose Restoration, Watcher. Return the souls to the bodies they were stolen from. Swear to me that you will do this, and I shall give you power to make even Wodica quake. I can be merciful and terrible, Watcher.
I think she knows that what just began as a way of laughing at the Helia followers here in the Durwood has actually turned into something serious. I supported her, but out of selfish, convenient reasons. I would hear what the other gods have to say first.
Wait! I'm not done with you.
Birds wheel and pivot, showing a flash of pale feathers. Who is this that speaks in anger? Please, forgive Pelagina's boldness, Helia. Passion is but another side of my nature. There is nothing to forgive. The birds settle on the branches and regard Pelagina.
It's not often that any of our kind get the chance to speak to their... What should I call you? My mother? Father? Those words seem to fall short and yet be too generous, given our history.
The birds cock their heads, craning and twisting their necks to look at one another. You are angry with me.
What did you expect? Should I be happy? To be like this? To live like this? What kind of creator does this to her creation and abandons it in a world this cruel?
And should I have plucked you from your home, wrapped you in my wings, and brought you to a nest like this one, some tranquil and harmonious place far from the war chants and battle dances you love so well? A hawk shivers, ruffling its feathers. Tell me what you want.
All I've ever wanted from any of your kind is to take some responsibility. Any responsibility for what you've done. To us. To every one of the children you've abandoned.
The birds flap their wings, rising from the branches. You are a song of ferocity, and one I love well. I hear your furor and rage, and it is music. Your prowess and valor leave a trail like a tapestry upon the world. I would not dampen your song, even with the comfort of my wings.
What does that mean? Come back here!
There is no response. Pelagina's fists clench in frustration. I'm sorry you didn't get the answers you were looking for, Pelagina. You deserve better.
We all deserve better.
Her shoulders slump in resignation.
Yeah.
I have to say, for a god, for a deity, that one wasn't too bad. And Barath is here. Pray to Barath. There is life in death and death in life. There's a rippling shift in the air around me, as if someone felt wind has changed, bringing unexpected warmth. I feel the peculiar weight of an unseen presence and of eyes upon me. I kneel and pray to Barath. Even while my eyes are closed, I see a road that seems to stretch on forever. The stars wheel overhead in a clockwork rotation of constellations, disappearing over the horizon to my left only to rise on my right. I try to make out the details on either side of the road, but my eyes can't seem to focus. One moment, I think I see a meadow blanketed with mist and another sheer canyon walls. For just an instant, I see waves lapping at the edges of the road. Were I to step into the shifting landscape, I feel certain I would only end up back on the road. I know this is a vision, but the packed dirt feels firm beneath my feet and the night air cool on my face. I am walking. My feet seem to carry me forward of their own accord. Something looms ahead of me. As I get closer, I see two stone figures that look strangely familiar. Bevwen, Ayanku e Benwen, two of the oldest representations of Barath. I remember the door to Cleoban Relag, and the two figures carved into the mountains next to it. One looks vaguely male and the other vaguely female. Only a thin layer of flesh covers their skeletal bodies, which twist to face the doorway between them. The doorway, however, is not what I saw in the ruins. It's a skull, gaping and jawless, and as I look on, its mouth seems to grow. The arms of the two stone sculptures are swept toward the mouth, inviting me in. Enter. The road continues through the maw to another shifting landscape surrounded by stars. As I pass through it, I see an identical doorway in the distance. A dwarven man stands near it, unmoving. I turn and look behind me, only to see the skull gate I just passed through facing me. An elven woman waits in the road. Like the dwarf, she stands still. Approach the dwarven man. I continue down the road toward him. He looks up as I approach, but I can't tell if he's looking at me or through me. His face is smooth and flaccid, as if the flesh has detached from the muscles underneath. As I look on, his face begins to change. Wrinkles crack at the corners of his eyes. His mouth sinks, carving deep lines from his nose to the corner of his lips. His jowls sag, and the loose flesh hangs like dough. He raises his cupped hands. They're covered in blood. He lifts them to his face and smears himself from his newly creased forehead to the wattles of his neck, as he massages the dark, sticky fluid onto his skin. The fresh wrinkles disappear, the hanging folds recede, and his flesh tightens as if re-adhering to his skull. He lifts his head, and this time, I know he's looking at me. His renewed face looks like a mask, artificially smooth and still. Behind it, his black eyes are two hungry pits, yawning like the empty mouths of a skull. Come, make your sacrifice to Ethnic Knoll. His body blocks the path. He extends a bloody hand toward me. My sacrifice. Take his hand. I grab his hand, but his skin gives too easily under my grip. As I try to pull away, I hear noise like dried canvas tearing. His skin splits, following a long seam that begins at his arm and stretches the length of his body. Blood gushes forth in such quantities that I can't imagine there was ever anything else in him. Sure enough, as the dwarf empties of blood, he collapses like a desiccated husk. The blood in the path gleams with 1,000 souls worth of essence. The essence evaporates, trailing shiny filaments into the night sky. Only now that he is dead can I continue forward. The blood pools around my feet, and as I look up and see the elven woman waiting further down the road. I'll approach her then. I start towards her. There's something unnatural about the way she stands. She's too still. When I get closer, I see that her legs taper into a slender trunk, and in place of her feet are gnarled, twisting roots. She lifts her face to an invisible sun. Her long golden hair is the color of autumn leaves, and as I look more closely, I realize that her head is actually covered with tendrils and vines, sprouting brilliant yellow leaves. Each glimmers with the essence of an entire soul. She gives me a beatific smile. As I look on, the leaves slowly fall from her head and settle at her roots. They melt into the path behind her, and almost immediately new leaves sprout in the place of the old. She reaches towards me, still smiling as roots spring from her fingertips. Her outstretched arms bar the path. Come, graft your soul to the golden grove. Take her hand. Her roots twine around my fingers, and as they do, they grow rigid and cold. Her outstretched arm petrifies, and as a rough stone bark overtakes her flesh, she can only look on in horror. I break away from her brittle grasp. Her feet are rooted in place, but she twists and writhes as if trying to flee her own dying limb. The petrification reaches her shoulders and spreads down her body, freezing it in a painful arc. It creeps up her neck, and she throws her face skyward like a drowning swimmer. The grayness covers her face, freezing her gasp in stone. Now that she is still and lifeless, I can continue past her. Only the golden leaves on her head remain untouched, and as I watch, they fall one by one to the path below. They shrivel as the shimmering essence fades from them. A voice echoes along the road, barely more than a whisper in the breeze. Return them to the wheel. I lift my gaze and see the skull gate ahead of me on the path. The candles of Ter Evron wink through the open mouth. I don't understand. What am I to take of that? It does seem like the gods are willing to offer a great power in exchange for a promise to deal with the stolen souls in the manner of their choosing. There would, however, be a price for betrayal. What did Barath want? Barath tires of mortals evading the natural cycle of death and rebirth. He showed me two individuals in particular, a dwarven man and an elven woman, who have extended their lives for centuries. Barath, the god of death and rebirth, showed me a vision. My touch slew them, and then I was able to continue along the path. I think this is the god's way of telling me that these two individuals have cheated death for too long. Ending their lives would no doubt please Barath. The dwarf from the vision had an eerie, ageless face, and he seemed to renew himself with the blood of others. He said something about the Ethnic Knoll. When I learn who or what this is, he will no doubt be nearby. The elven woman was strangely tree-like in the vision. She mentioned a place called the Golden Grove. The druids of the Golden Grove told me that High Ovate Arona often ventures to Elmshore in search of remedies to prolong her life. I suspect that Arona is the elven woman from the vision.